You're getting good luck messages, Mark.
Ah, good stuff. That's all right then. I was gonna say I'll get the branding in there. I'll sit over here now.
Okay. Brilliant, and welcome everybody to this Wednesday's Lunch and Learn, and I am delighted to be joined with Marc Dueck from Me Financial Services. Welcome this lunchtime, Marc.
Hello. Do you know what? We've got really good colour thing going on now. I wore a blue tie. I just must have known what you were going to wear today.
All prepared, all matching. That's what it was. That's what it was. So welcome to all those people joining us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on our Zoom live. If anybody does have any questions for Marc as the webinar goes on, then please do drop them in the chat box. We've got people monitoring them, and I will ask away. Make them as challenging as you want, as he says, going. I
don't.
So welcome along this lunchtime, Marc. So first question out there is, tell me about your business journey so far. Tell me where did it start and where is it at the moment? Over to you.
Yeah, so well, my background's banking. I think I'm allowed to say the bank. It will slip out anyway. So I used to work for NatWest, and if they're listening on the call, I've got nothing bad to say about you at all. It sort of built me up and got me to where I need to be and everything like that. So very, very early days, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest with you. I was going to work in going to work in Sainsbury's on the deli, and I thought I was going to go to uni. Didn't go to uni. Then I was going to go and be a designer. Didn't do that. Did an electronics course. Didn't do that. And I thought mortgages, that'd be it. But it wasn't quite like that. No. I stuck my CV around when I started my sort of proper job hunting, as I'd say. NatWest gave me a shot. I started as a cashier and sort of worked my way up. I've done various roles in NatWest, including, well, I started cashier, doing the loans and all that sort of stuff. Then I worked in private banking and the sort of wealth side of things for a good amount of time. And that's where I really sort of sunk my teeth into that customer experience part of it, the sort of, making people feel good about dealing with you, hopefully. And then realised I wanted to get into management, so went through the chain of all that. I managed a branch down in Wokingham, and then I went into mortgages as a supervisor in mortgages. And then kids came along, probably for about four years to the end of my career in NatWest. I started getting itchy feet, thinking, do I really want to keep going up the corporate chain and, go up high? And actually, could I as well? That's another thing. It wasn't a given by any stretch. But then I was sort of thinking about, I got involved with a financial services company who was one of my old clients, and Excel one-to-one. So if you're listening as well, down in Milton Keynes, they really supported me to get onto the ladder, think about being a broker. Yep. And then from there, I just had a really sort of good vision of how I wanted it to work. So going from, very corporate focused straight down the line, massive processes rolled out for a big organization of 100,000 employees. You always think about, I would do this a bit different, I would perhaps do that a bit different. And I just sort of went from there, really. So now me Financial Services is in its third year now. I was about 3 years as a broker previously, built up my client base and stuff like that. Got used to the job, all that sort of thing. And now we've got a team of the 6 of us now, and I'm hoping to sort of grow it to 10. So I've been for a bit of a big change, really, and I've got a bit of management there as well, I suppose. As my team are listening, they probably know I don't manage anything, really. Just let them get on with it.
I can see their participants, actually, so I'm sure they'll be either Googling or not. So was that the motivation to go from corporate to running it yourself, that you became kind of slightly frustrated with restriction, I suppose, or the process that was involved?
A little bit. I think mortgages are one of those things where you've got two sides of it. You've got very, very straightforward. We made a joke when we've spoken in the past. You can Google search your rate and everything like that. To actually, there's a lot of finite things, such as, if your income's broken down differently, or if you're self-employed, how long you've been self-employed for, all these sort of variations where there was a clear gap where you've got that whole thing of the bank says no. You know, people generally when they're buying mortgages, the first thing they'll do is they'll go to their bank, and the bank will say yes, or they'll say no. The next thing they'll do is go to their dad or their mum and say, oh, the bloody bank said no. I'll go to this bank. This bank will do it. They did one for John down the road. And then they might say no. And then from there, you know, people are getting quite disillusioned and things. And I think it's quite a broker's market nowadays, because there's a lot of complexities with different ways people are paid. I mean, COVID especially, that's hit everybody like crazy. If you're on furlough, has your business been affected? Have you taken grants? Lenders have got lots of different criteria, and I think there's the thing that inspired me to get going into it really is it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be complicated. There's a lot of jargon in mortgages, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think there's a big opportunity to sort of hold a client's hands through that process to make it all quite simple and make sense.
So is that what you would say is like your unique selling point? So, you know, I will hold your hand from start to finish. Is that the ethos that is Me Financial Services?
I would say so. Yeah, definitely. I think it's all underpinned from the service that the client receives, and then I suppose from a business point of view is how do you embed that into your business as it grows, with everybody that's got their own sort of selling styles and advice styles and things like that. How do you embed that in a business that isn't too controlling, like the corporate world that I used to work for, into something that gives people the license to still give the customer service in the way they want to give, but also they want to grow and actually make sure the key service points, such as being updated and things, happen automatically.
Yeah. So obviously you started out, you know, yourself in your business, and then you took on one broker, then another broker, then another broker. You know, what made you kind of make that kind of growth decision, if you know what I mean, to go from just yourself, you know, because fundamentally you created, you know, nicest possible way, a job for yourself, you know, to do what you wanted to do. So what made you kind of move it forward?
I think the massive bit I enjoyed at working at NatWest when I was a mortgage advisor, I used to look after Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire and Hertfordshire mortgage advisors, and you know, I think I give a great service. I think I know what good service is, and you know, I'd like to think I know a fair bit about mortgages and other financial services just from my experience. And I think the thing I like the most about having a team was actually helping them solve their problems and actually grow as well. And I missed that really. I missed that part from when I left NatWest, and I felt that you can only do what you can do in a big bank, and to actually have the freedom of looking at the whole of the market and solving other financial solutions means that you can, if I can embed that in other people as well, and everybody else can do that, and other staff can do that, and other brokers can do that, I think there's a way to sort of grow a brand. So I like the idea of having our own brand. So our brand is quite, you know, tongue-in-cheek. It's all about me, you know, Me Financial Services. So we've got Mortgage Me, Protect Me, Insure Me. You know, there might be eventually one day Invest Me. There might be some of my guys come up with jokes, you know, maybe a funeral service of Bury Me, but that is a pure joke. I'm just joking. We won't quite stretch that far. But,
you never know. Bury Me.
But, I think the thing that really made me want to do it is it's been a big challenge for me, because you know you've got a brand that you've built, and then everyone's got their own way of doing things. But I think my team, I think, are fantastic. They all have got the vision of how they want their life to be easier and just take away barriers to help their clients quickly and efficiently, while at the same time giving that good level of service and the good branding behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what sort of made me get into it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So, you know, if you could do it again, you know, rewind the clock 3 years, you know, would you do anything different? Would you stay in corporate longer?
Yeah.
Would you, you know, that $64,000 question, would you do it the same journey as what you've done now?
I mean, I've learned so much. I mean, if anyone's listening and, you know, they're thinking about doing a similar thing, unless you're in my team, you're not going anywhere. But if anyone's thinking of, you know, doing a similar thing, I mean, you know, we've got a lot of ex-bank people in our, I'm talking to ex-bank all the time. I mean, when I first started, I was just a mortgage broker. Do you know what I mean? I was just a mortgage broker, just going in, helping customers with mortgages, building up some clients and things like that. I think the fundamental difference between being a seller, if you like, and actually running a business, I perhaps took that for granted a little bit, that it was a given. So, for example, John and Psycho were one of my first guys, and I actually worked with them in the previous company, and they sort of came across with me. I think the mistake I made at the beginning was, what I'll do is I'll just, I'll do my own thing. They can do their own thing. It'll help the business as a total. And then that's that. And everyone's got different styles and everything like that. And I think the key thing that I've put in place now are certain things to allow us to make our job easier. And I think as you grow, my mistake was putting different systems and procedures in place as and when I needed to. So say, for example, if I got to a certain size and I thought, well, actually, now I'm a bit bigger, I need this. I actually think you need to forward proof and actually have the systems in place to allow you to grow without restriction than pulling everything back and think, oh, we need to do something a bit differently now, and then reintroducing a different system. Workflow is a massive thing. So we put a workflow system in place now where the system will automatically pop up with tasks for me and the rest of the guys to do as we're going through the process. So then the idea is we update the client automatically, valuations, get booked in. We have an update that goes out for those sorts of things. Whereas beforehand, everyone would have their own bit of paper and a list or something on the wall and everything like that, which, looking at it from above and looking at what everybody's doing, I wasn't very close to what everybody's doing, but I made the mistake of thinking, well, everyone's self-employed anyway that works for me. That's our structure. So, they'll do what they do and I'll do what I do. And I think actually that's not really brung us together, and that's not given a consistent service at the early stages to the client. So we've now made that so it's all slicker, we're all working on the same page. The client won't know any different because they still have always got really great service from us anyway. But from a business point of view, I wasn't looking at it commercially. I was looking at it as in, I'll do loads of mortgages, they'll do loads of mortgages, and that's how it'll work. So I would have probably set something up like that in the first place.
So I was going to say, so in other words, when you went into it, and we find it a lot, that people kind of create a job for themselves, and kind of, but not a business, not one that you could potentially go on holiday and it runs and so on and so forth, giving you the choices that you potentially have now. And looking back, those systems that you're talking about can be implemented in any business. It's not just about mortgages, it's that workflow, isn't it? And making sure that you're capitalizing on every single point of touch points with the client, to make them feel that special in that customer journey. Do you think that you've honed in on it now, or do you think there's still room for improvement?
Yeah, definitely. I would probably say in the last 12 months we've started to get it really right. But in the last 6 months, I was actually a bit poorly. I was off with COVID, unfortunately. And then when I came back to work, that actually dawned on me that I had to drag myself out of bed as a business owner and go, oh God, I've got to hand this off to someone and everything like that. Whereas we're putting things in place now where we know what we're all doing. We've all got a shared diary and everything like that. And the vision is that we're all working together, we all pick up with each other and everything like that, and make things carry on. I mean, the client's the only thing that's important in the middle of all of this. So it's just how we, from the brokers being happy, how we will interact with each other and make sure the clients get, dedicated service.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the COVID word. It's banned on this call. No, I'm only joking. Obviously, the last 18 months have been a challenge for all businesses, no matter what kind of sector you're in. But I suppose for you and mortgage brokers out there, it's been quite a buoyant time, although stressful in certain ways, because obviously the stamp duty holiday and so on. How have you managed to cope with that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think we were on the other side of it, with the stamp duty and the the COVID and everything. I think there's two elements. One is more lenders or more banks are saying no because of COVID, believe it or not. So there are certain lenders, whereas if you've had a grant after a certain time, they would automatically decline. It's a shame. It shouldn't be like that. So if it start getting shouted at, it's not my fault. So you've got certain banks that will do that, or they'll say if you've been on furlough for a period of time, that would affect you. So people are going to their banks, the bank's saying no. We're getting a lot more inquiries because of that. or we were getting a lot more inquiries because of that. I mean, that's coming up soon. And then obviously the COVID side, I particularly personally specialise in self-employed, and so there's a lot of hurdles that how's the business been affected by COVID and everything like that. And then also the increased inquiries of everyone rushing to buy a house to save on the stamp duty and all that sort of stuff. So I'd probably say most mortgage brokers that you speak to have been much busier, but we try and specialise in absolutely everything. So for example, Psycha may be really great at right to buy scenarios, and you know, we've got people that are really good with new builds. We don't specialize in any particular area. I think diversification is really key where it comes to that, because if you were, say, a mortgage broker that specifically concentrated on first-time buyers, for example, my suggestion would be, well, if the market gets to the stage where first-time buyers are priced out, or that particular market is affected by anything like a massive global pandemic, for example, are you in a place to be able to react and change your sort of specialism and cover all sort of areas, really? So we like to do a bit of everything. So it hasn't really affected us from the point of view of we're doing more mortgages, but if that wasn't there, we would be concentrating more on other areas. I mean, another aspect of our business is protection as well. I mean, COVID's been massive for making people sit up and think, well, if I'm off sick, how can I actually pay my bills and things like that? So we've had lots of inquiries around that as well. So, you know, there's a lot of people that are struggling out there. And you know, and we see it all the time. We see lots of people that are struggling to get mortgages and things like that. But where we're concerned, it's been the sort of other end. I suppose from a business point of view, we just need to make sure that that momentum can carry on. And when all of the COVID stuff calms down, or the stamp duty holiday, which ends at the end of September, finally into the end of September, once that's gone, have you got enough business mix and opportunities to sort of carry on as you were before, or are you just making hay and then hoping that's going to see you through the next boom?
Yeah. So if somebody's listening out there that's, you know, sat in that or other banks are available and building societies, you know, and they're kind of going, oh, I quite fancy that, you know, I'm a bit stuck in, you know, in this, I don't really like the process, etc. All those things that frustrated you in NatWest, what would you advise them to do? What is that first step that you took? Yeah. Hand your notice in and just go for it, or did you?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I did, but I wouldn't. I think a
great thing, Mark. It's a great thing.
Yeah, but getting it back to basics. In order you have to have a qualification to talk about mortgages, which is CMAP, or an equivalent qualification, which it's easy for me to say, but it's fairly a straightforward process. There's a few exams you take, a bit of studying, and you take it. That'll tick the box, but there's a lot of compliance behind it as well. Certainly since, you know, the credit crunch in 2008 and the mortgage market review in 2012, advice isn't as straightforward as what's the cheapest rate. Let's do that. So there's nothing that can be said about experience. So, I mean, I'm lucky from the fact that I've grown up through, you know, my corporate world and working in mortgages and things like that. Is get experience, really. So I'm talking to a couple of people that are studying at the moment for themselves, but they haven't come from a banking background, but maybe they could do some shadowing. If you can find a company that will support your growth through that way, do a bit of shadowing, see how it works and everything like that. You know, data protection is a big thing, everything all done legitimately, but you know, we can do that. You really want, my personal advice would be, so I had a nice car before I started, and I sold the nice car, so you've got to take it on the chin. You really want about 3 to 6 months in the bank, I think, of your household bills. I think that's a good idea. Yeah. How we're paid, if people really want to know the granular, is we will generally, there may be fees that we charge clients, there may not be fees we charge clients depending on the circumstances, but ultimately we're paid by the lender. So the big thing for me was when we started thinking, oh, I've just helped somebody with a mortgage. You might not get paid that for 3 months. You might not get paid that for up to 12 weeks, 3 months. Things happen as well. You know, I went off gun ho and I was like, yeah, I've done 4 applications. That's going to be great. So I'm going to get that money soon. any mortgage broker listening now knows from a cash flow perspective how it can be when circumstances happen outside their control. Somebody's been gazumped, lost a house, somebody's lost a job, can't have the mortgage anymore. Circumstances change. So you do need that backup to be able to have that cash flow where it's not the end of your world when one case falls out. It's just part of the rolling workload that happens, and it does take a while to build that up. The second thing is it's daunting. I remember when I first started and I was in the busy world in NatWest, I was doing this, having one-to-ones, and I was going away. I did business, I did commercial lending for a while as well, so I was doing bits and pieces like that. And then all of a sudden I remember just sitting at a desk and going, well, what do I do? And you know, I just sat there with the computer in front of me going, what do I do now? You know, where's the leads? You know, what do I call? How do I do it? And I think it does dawn on you. It really does. And there's so many mortgage brokers out there. You know, everyone knows a mortgage broker. Someone's brother's uncle knows a mortgage broker. Someone's cousin knows someone at Barclays. It's so many people that you think when you go into it, you're going to think, well, just because I've started now and people like me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a post out on Facebook and I'm going to have 12 people that are going to say, I want a mortgage, I want a mortgage. And it really doesn't work like that. So one of the mistakes I made is I got really disheartened if I saw somebody that I knew whose friend's friend who recommended me actually decided to go elsewhere. I'd be like, well, why? What's going on there? You know,
what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Yeah.
You know, why would they go elsewhere? But everyone knows everybody, and even still, we get estate agents that you know will have their own brokers as well, and they might coerce people to. That never happens, obviously. Any brokers, any estate agents that I work with, but they may promote their in branch broker and everything like that. And you're fighting up against that all the time, really. It's only about 6 months in when you look back at the last 6 months and you think, well, actually, I've got a few things bumbling along now. Where's my next one going to come from and everything like that. So how I've tried to fix that is I don't want any brokers that say join us particularly to have that scenario of what do I do now. So everyone we've changed our structure recently where everybody who joins me as a me broker will have almost like a franchise package set up for them where they'll have their own micro site that have lots of data on there, they'll have their own Facebook site set up, and they can control their local area because we cover anywhere. I mean, if somebody was in Scotland, we could help them. So, you know, we're set up to be able to stretch our net further out, but there's obviously going to be local recommendations which make up all of our business really, or most of it. And my advice would be don't get disheartened, really. Just don't get disheartened. People are going to go elsewhere. People are going to have an uncle that's got a best mate that's a mortgage broker that knows more than you or whatever. It's just going to happen. And after a while, when a few cases stick and you get your customers to shout about you a bit more, you'll start to get more recommendations and you'll start to think we're not worried about where's the next mortgage coming from. You're thinking about where's the next 10 mortgages coming from, where's the next introducer that I can work with coming from, and things like that. And I'm like, where's my next broker coming from, rather than where's my next mortgage coming from. And you know, it just sort of builds like that, really.
Yeah, I think you've really hit the nail on the head for a lot of businesses, and a lot of what you're saying can be transferred into any business out there, and especially the service industry, because you know, we're not selling a not to belittle it, but you're not selling like a cup. You know, it's like you're selling the cup, you get the money instantly. You know, you're selling a service that can take 3 months to actually get paid, and a lot of things that are out with your control, like you say, you know, and you know, gazumping, you know, they decide not to sell and stuff, you know, and you've actually already put in that work. And the cash flow aspect is so important, you know, when you're going into a business, a new business, then how long can you survive on the cash flow, on the cash that you physically got? You know, and what do you need to be doing now? I remember, you know, when I went from corporate to working with Glenn, and I went in on the first day and went, so what do we do? And they were like, put the kettle on. Oh, okay. Quite like, I honestly, there was a big joke in my family that I became the tea lady, because I was constantly kind of going, so what do we do now? Because when you're in that corporate environment, you're given it, or there is a certain procedure and expectation.
Just going through it, you're going through it.
Yeah, every single day, and you don't get that when you're running your own business. And I think it's a really big lesson that you have to learn quite early on, is that you are in control of what you do. So if you want to come in and make the tea 24 hours a day, then that's absolutely fine, but you're not going to generate any business from it.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is, and I hate to say it, but when as I was going through it, it was quite carefree in the first year or so, or say 6 months or year or so. I was just concentrating on my own stuff and carrying on. But you find yourself, all the stuff that you've actually learned, all the pointless training. Oh God, not another training course in NatWest, and I've got another thing I've got to go to. You realise when you sort of start looking at a smaller scale business or a local business, actually some of that makes sense. why they do it. You're a bit like, oh yeah, like the workflow, for example. You'd have to put a note on every time you spoke to a customer, all that sort of stuff, and then you're like, why am I doing this again? Why am I doing that again? And you actually realise that it's a good idea. Perhaps not all of it. I don't want to give it too much credit, but there's certain things that you think, well, actually, that uniform way of doing it with enough flexibility is a good approach. And I think it's very easy to go. I mean, our business is really made up of two fundamental areas. I think we've got people that know a fair bit about mortgages, or think they do, and they'll get a mortgage anywhere, basically. So that they know, for example, they'll be able to walk into a bank, get a mortgage, no problem. Probably do a little Google on Martin Lewis, and they'll get it no problem at all. It's very easy, right? There's that side of things. Then you've got the other people that you assume will probably know a lot, but you really can't make assumptions. There's so many times where I've spoken to somebody and they've rolled off their standard variable rate, which for those on the call don't know, you have your first initial fixed rate deal, and then it comes to the end of it. In my head, because I've grown up with it, everyone's going to be saying, oh yeah, but your deals come to an end, you just choose another one, you just look around for another one. But I think the last statistic, there was probably over half, if not 60% of mortgages are on a standard variable rate, just because they are. And I remember when I first started, I was just like, what are you doing? Why is it you've not renewed it for like 2 years? What are you doing? You're paying 4%. What's going on? And you can't make assumptions that people know everything. And I think that's a big assumption that I made when I first started as well. And I realized that you have to give every single client, you have to go through it with them as if they know nothing. And then you will then bleach out when they look at you, roll their eyes, I know that, I'm not stupid. Then you're all actually on the same page with them. But that never happens either.
No, but it's so true. And I think it's, again, something that's transferable out there is actually understanding your client. Understanding what they know, because I mean, I've always said since we've started talking, I know nothing really about mortgages. It's not something that I've learned a hell of a lot, over the last year or so that we've known each other. I know a lot more, but I would be the one that would need my handheld. And I think it's also that it's very difficult for a customer to admit that they don't know something as well.
100%, yeah.
So it's a challenge out there. Is that something that you find that your mortgage brokers also equally, is that the ethos of me, that handheld in the client is always kind of, you assume that they don't know anything really to start with?
Yeah. I mean, when I set up, I could have set it up as like, Marc Dueck Mortgage Services or something like that. The idea, the whole thing about me, like see in the background, sorry, mortgage me, protect me, insure me, that, if you like, the vision for that really was, I don't want to be, even though I'm wearing a tie today, which is very rare. You've done that to me, Julie. But even I don't want to, we all of us and all of my guys, really, really nice guys, you can talk to anybody like crazy. We just want to be approachable, and we want to make the complicated simple. And I know that every single one of my guys would go through that process, and they treat everybody exactly the same way. Wouldn't be using jargon like loan to value and debt to income ratio and serviceability and all that sort of stuff. We'll break it down, so when you got to the end of making the decision, you know exactly what you're getting into. You're not just doing it because a guy in a suit and tie is saying that's what you should do, and you go, all right, then I'll do it. That is really how advice should work. You should never have any doubts in your mind, and that is the ethos. We're making it Really simple. We don't want to be stuffy and inapproachable. On our website, we want people to be able to click around and explore. They can look at our case studies and things like that. They can even work out some, loose affordability now on our affordability calculator, and work out what likely that they'll be able to figure out, or be able to borrow. We want people to really poke and explore, and we want to be open with them, and they'll then come to us. I've had a look at your website. I think I could borrow this. Oh, great, let's talk about it. And they've got enough information to go into it with their eyes open a little bit, and then when they come out the back end, they'll be like, yeah, they could almost be a broker themselves.
I love that. So what's the goal? What's the dream? What's the, that big, hairy, audacious goal that you've got for Me Financial Services for the next 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah, so my biggest challenge really now is, so we got six on board now. We're talking to another. I think with a bit of luck, we'll have 10 by the end of the year. Fingers crossed. And at that stage, personally, I would have options, I suppose, as a business owner. I'd have options to not need to do so much of the mortgages myself, and actually have the business run and just concentrate on running the business rather than doing the mortgages myself.
Yeah.
And we've just got into a very specialist area in equity release, which some people may or may not have heard about. It's basically later life lending, which I think may get more and more popular as people are going through difficult financial times. So I'd like to sort of concentrate on growing that part of the business. Myself and John both give advice on that, but there's plenty of scope for that side.
John's on the call.
He's not as good as me, but I'm in trouble.
A note in a chat, I tell you.
But I think realistically, in 10 years' time, I'd like to think I was in a good enough position that we had a recognised brand, that it wouldn't just be a case of we've got local. He says he's listening on the chat. Sorry, John. We'd have a recognisable brand that's a brand that's trusted, and if somebody, let's say, if we had a broker up in, I don't know, wherever, Liverpool that joined us, they would go, oh, you're a me broker. And they would know that means they're going to get a quality service, and the broker that's joining knows that they're going to get an off-the-shelf service package, which means they could give an excellent service to their clients and just concentrate on making money for themselves and building their own mini franchise. I mean, that's really it. Yeah. So I think that's where I'd like to be.
Just checking good old Facebook and LinkedIn. Roz wants to know, what would you say has been your biggest challenge?
Being a control freak. I think, like any business, being a control freak, I think there's, if we get a lead and it's a bit complicated, and hopefully my team will all understand this. I'm a bit like, no, it's getting a little bit complicated, so I'll handle it. I'll do it myself. I'll make sure I do it, and I'll put in all that time, and I'll work at like 11 o'clock at night and look at things and everything like that, and then I'll boss it out. Got a really good team, and perhaps letting go a little bit and just thinking, well, actually somebody else can handle that, and then there's more inquiries that we can take on as a business owner. It's going from being, I mean, this is an action coachism, so you'll love this, Julie, but going from working in the business to working on the business.
Oh, it has sunk in.
It's genuinely true. It's very easy for me to just stick my head down, let everybody else get on with it, and I'll just concentrate on my clients and inquiries as they come in. But actually, I would much rather have 10 clients that come in that we can service excellently well than my one client that's going to come in, and then we're looking at it from a case-by-case basis. So the biggest challenge for me to answer that question is letting go, I suppose. And I suppose anyone's going to be like that. If you're a baker and you've got this great recipe for the best buns in wherever, you're going to want to make sure that I'll do that. You've got to let go and actually have a team that deals with it for you and bakes the bread for you, so you can actually service more people.
I totally
boring mortgages.
Yeah, no, but I totally agree. I mean, we've talked to clients in the past where the name of their company, and I suppose it goes back initially even to that, you haven't called it Marc Dueck. You know, you haven't called it you, because if you had, then you become that company, don't you?
It's not about me, it's about me. That's it.
No, but it's so true, because if you then become, you know, Julie Cameron coaching, you know, people want to be coached by Julie Cameron.
Yeah. Hello, my name's John. I'm from Julie Cameron Coaching. You know,
it doesn't make sense. Whereas, you know, if you say, you know, my name's Jacinda and I'm from Me Financial Services, we're here to talk about mortgages. It's not about you as the person. Whereas they could sit there and go, I want Marc Dueck. He's the best. He's the face. He's the, you know. So, you know, for those businesses out there that are looking for that first step, that first name, it becomes really important, because, like you say, it's the brand, isn't it? And you don't want to be that brand.
And I'd like to think, you know, there's other big mortgage networks out there that have, you know, got a lot of the market sewn up in this similar model. You know, I'd like to think that we would be equally as recognised, and that's where I want to get to, really. But you know, it takes time, and it's getting that infrastructure right. And I need to just let go and really, you know, get to. And all joking aside, you know, there is a financial element for me. You know, I've got my own personal outgoings and things like that, and the way that we're paid, if I'm handing off business to my guys, there's less that's going to go into my personal pocket. So I suppose any business owners out there, that's a hit that you're going to have to take for the bigger picture as well. You know, I could either get 100% of the commission that's going to come through from a sale, or I can hand it off and there might be 50% that I would get, or only 20% or that would come into the business. But is going from that stage of working my backside off for 100% of things, or do I get 10 other brokers that are all chucking in their 20 or 50% for the business? And it's get to that stage. And I think, going back to what you asked me in the first place about what would I have done differently, I think I would have grasped that concept a little bit earlier and not just done it when I got so busy that I couldn't actually cope with it.
I mean, hindsight's always a great thing. You know, we always say it's about learning and about adapting to your circumstances, but I totally agree. You know, it's about that scalability of the business that you've got, you know, and you've set it off from the right starting point, as in, yes, you created a job for yourself, you then recognize that actually I'm too busy, I need more people. And it's the scalability. You've gone from 1 to 2, you've got 5, 6, the aim is 10 this year. You know, the aim in 5 years time, is it, you know, world domination? Is it, you know, UK domination? Is that what the aim is? You know,
I don't think world domination. You know, if it organically happens, it organically happens. No, I don't think so. But I think in my head, 40 seems like a decent number. 40 seems like a decent number. I don't really know where I got that derived from, but I think as you grow, and it's like any business as well, you've got that element of quality control and things like that. So the way we're set up at the moment, we have a process laid out. I won't bore you with how it all works, but we have a compliance element to our business, which gives me an element of control, because stuff's happening in the background to make sure things are happening from a compliance point of view, and we're related to the FCA and you know, our regulators and stuff like that. There's going to be a stage though where if we got a bit bigger, we would need to rethink that structure, because they take an element of the turnover, for example, but also we might want our own license to do things even more differently. And at that stage, we would then need to think about, well, there's so many of us, do I need to look at employing anybody like a compliance officer or something like that, or do I need to look at a business development manager that goes around and make sure all the brokers are really happy and getting the most out of their individual businesses? You know, it's where options are coming in, and how do I work that out? Because we're a self-employed model, and I like self-employed model from a business owner, because you don't have all of the HR stuff necessarily, which is great. But I also think that if a broker's self-employed, there's a bit about them, and they're trying to grow their own business themselves, and they're doing it because they're working for the client. They're not doing it because they're getting a salary from my company. And then, you know, you've got all the issues of, well, anyone that's listening who employs anyone, I'm sure you know about all the challenges you can get from employing somebody. and that model makes it quite simple, I think. But there's going to be a stage where, you know, certain brokers might want to grow themselves. So I'd like opportunities for those brokers to sort of step up maybe and get involved in the bigger business, or do we actually franchise off different bits? They could take on other people themselves, maybe, you know, all this sort of stuff. I think once you get into sort of 30, 40, it's too much for one person to handle. And I would need to team up with somebody, I think. I mean, when I was at NatWest, we had a team of 13. I had a team of 13. So, you know, it's going to 40, you might need 2 of me or 3 of me, which, well, you might just need 1 really good me, I don't know. But, but you know, different challenges come from different growths. And I'm sure, you know, in your world, probably that much more better than me. And you'll probably pull me aside one day and say, you need to start thinking about this, or need to start thinking about that. But that's the goal. I would like to have a business that every single one of my guys was completely happy, completely comfortable. To be frank, they were like, there's no point in setting up our own business anyway, because we've got the brand. It's more hassle for us to set up our own companies and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, I'd like them to know that if that was a route they chose, I would support them, because you're going to get that. You're going to get people coming and joining and going and doing their own things. I'd like to think there was the best possible package that they could have to give them the license to run their own individual self-employed businesses as they like. And then from that, we get organic growth, you know, and that's really it. And once I got to that stage, every one of my guys hopefully would have a really good living where they could work when they want and not when they have to. And the same with me, work when I want, when I have to. If I went away for a month, 2 months, 3 months, it would still run itself. But that seems like a million years away yet. But, you know, I look back to where we first started, and, you know, it's pretty scary, really. So I remember sitting in the seat going, where's my next mortgage coming from? And I'm like, where's my next broker coming from? You know, it's just how it is. I was
going to say, it's that mind shift. It's looking at different kind of, it's a different mind shift, isn't it? So like you say, it's going from mortgage, you know, where's my next lead coming from? Where's my next customer coming from? To actually, how am I going to grow my business? And that's taking you probably, you know, going on 2, maybe 3 years to actually get to that stage. So, you know, and there's people out there that I'm sure are kind of going, well, I'm nowhere near. I'm looking at who's going to make the next cup of tea. It's that aspect at the very beginning. So the growth that you've had is phenomenal, you know, and I've got no problem in thinking that come 5 years time, you'll have, you know, you'll have your 40 brokers out there, because it's your mindset that's, you know, and you're smiling and rolling your eyes. And
no.
I can see it. But, you know, the beauty about, I suppose, your business model is that you're not employing people. You've got people working with you that are of that same mindset. Like you say, they want to grow. They have the motivation, you know, to do it. And I think that is a key fundamental part, because when you're employing people, do they have the right motivation?
You know, you get the job hoppers, don't you? And that's the thing. You get the job hoppers, and, you know, it does happen a lot, and there are companies out there that, you know, will have employed people, and there's nothing wrong with being an employed broker. You know, there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But from a business point of view, it doesn't quite work for me. It's a lot of it may end up changing. There might be a different element where one day, you know, we have a different part of our business that tackles the sort of very straightforward cases that you know, maybe come in from a estate agent arm or something like that. We haven't really tapped into that. We're all sort of really recommendation side, but there might be a case where we get that, and we just need somebody employed to handle these applications and you know, specifically be dedicated to doing that. And, you know, maybe an employed position like that would be more suitable, because there are people out there that are great mortgage advisors, and especially when I was at NatWest, exactly the same. But, you know, it is a big step to go, I'll give up a salary. You know, everyone's got bills and stuff. It's a big step to take. But everyone that's with us now, like I say, I would like to think that it's very easy to set it up and go, there you go, John, who's on there. There you go, John, there's your business. You can go and trade and just get on with it. I'd like to think that everyone in my team would and does get support to help them grow, just like I started as well, and be self-sufficient too. And I think that's why the self-employed model works for us, really, because everyone's invested in it to keep their whole family situation and financial situation going as well, whatever their objectives are.
Yeah. So if your business could talk to you, okay, I give you a heads up before that I was going to ask you this question. So if your business could talk to you, what would it say? What would
Still
it
don't really know what you want me to say to that, but I think it
what would it say to you? What would it scream at you?
I still think my business would shout, stop doing mortgages. Like yourself, genuinely. Like I think it would say, give that one away, you know, hand it off. I think that realistically, any broker would know, you know, 3 cases a week is pretty good. You know, you're pretty okay with that. But there'll be times where there's like 11 backed up or something like that, and you know, I instead of working through them all the way up to say 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night to get them all finished, we've got a team there. Give them away, Mark. Stop being a control freak. So I have got that now, and I think it would still shout that at me. It's just, you know, still that control freak side of me. I think that you know, the guys do it probably better than me half the time. And, you know, it's just how it is. It's nothing wrong with that. I'm just a bit of a control freak. And I think as well, actually, the other bit to that is not to be too. The bit about giving it away, all joking aside, is I might get a client that's recommended someone to me that I've dealt with for the last 6 years, and they're like, he's solid, Mark's great, you know. For them to then pass it to me and go, actually, I'm going to hand it off, we have to think about how that looks as well. And I think that's my problem, because most people won't mind, because there's mortgage advisors everywhere. And my friend has recommended you. Ah, great, you know, I'll pass to somebody else to deal with that, and they'll pick it up and run with it. So I think if it could talk to me, it would say, yeah, carry on with not being so involved in working in the business instead of working on it. I mean, that's the key thing.
I love it. Check it. I'm just checking questions on Facebook and LinkedIn, because we've had quite a few comments. People are saying hello and don't be too mean to him. Paresh was on. Aaron's been watching, because I know that obviously you do a lot of networking as well. Is a lot of your business come from the referral aspect, or are you actively marketing yourself out there? Is that something that you were conscious of at the start, that you were advertising, or has it all been referrals?
Yeah, it's really funny, right? Whenever we take anybody on, or whenever, even if I know you know, somebody who's going to go and work for another company or something like that that's starting up themselves, they always go, "Where do you get your leads from?" And I genuinely, I just like, what did I? Just people knowing me and stuff like that. I would say networking is a massive thing. As you know, we're in BNI, and you know, even that takes a long time to get off the ground. But once you're established, it's okay, because people trust you. I think that's the thing. It's that building up the trust thing. So it's all well and good. I could put a Facebook post out talking about the best fixed rate out there at the moment is this, or, you know, being self-employed, there are lenders out there that will use 1 year's accounts. To expect people to go, brilliant, I'll tell you everything off the back of a Facebook post, it just doesn't happen like that. And I think it takes a while to get used to the fact that people need to see a lot of that activity before they start doing at it. And Solihull mums and dads, for example, if you're on that one, big thumbs up, is like, it's like a mums and dads site, and we get tagged in that all the time. People saying, you know, do you know any mortgage brokers? And me gets tagged in that so many times. Yeah. But everyone that's tagging us are people that we've done mortgages for before and everything like that. And that took probably 6 months, 12 months to get to the sort of level that we're at now. But to get started, yeah, I saw everything, and that would be my advice to anybody: just see everything. Like anybody that you think may be very tricky, if you could say, look, I'm really sorry, it's not going to be possible because you don't have a job, and that, you know, that's normally the big one. I would see everything, just see it, because they may know somebody. If you do a good job, help the client. Fair enough, you can't help now, but what do they need to do to get to the stage where you can help them? They'll go, that guy was excellent. That guy was excellent. I'm good. And then they're going to have a conversation with somebody that they meet down the pub. I met a really nice guy, couldn't help me, but he told me I need to get a credit card and keep paying it back to build up a credit report or something like that. Just see everything and help everybody, because you don't know who they know. And that's really the ethos of networking as well. You don't know who somebody else knows. Don't look at every case individually. Just be nice and give a good service to everyone.
And that goes back to customer service and creating those raving fans that do the job for you, basically. Like you say, the amount of people that recommend you on, Solihull Mums and Dads, big thumbs up and all of that. But the amount of people that recommend you organically without you actually having to ask, they're doing the sales job for you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do enough social media. I'll get the time and then I'll do some, and then I'll be busy and then I won't, which is a big thing for me. And we need to get that more formal. And that's something that we're going to be launching. We're going to be launching a formal, it's called Inform Me. There you go. There's going to be, I told you it's all about me. There's going to be a section called Inform Me, where we're going to have, a post that goes out. All of my guys are going to get the same post, and they're going to post that to their own particular areas, and then that's going to just keep the presence up and everything like that. Really,
it's consistency, isn't it? It's consistency with the message that's out there, and it's the same again with any business out there, that you have to be consistent in your marketing strategies, because if you stop doing something for a couple of weeks, people are fickle, they forget, they go elsewhere.
Exactly that message about 1 year's accounts. Some people think, oh, I'm self-employed, I can't do it because I've only got 1 year's accounts, and I need 2 because that's what my bank told me. But that's your bank's policy. That's not everyone's policy. So that's why it really sort of slips through the net. I could put that post out once, it could be ignored. Put that post out again. Oh yeah, I remember that guy. Forget about it. Put the post out again, then all of a sudden somebody's like going along and their uncle has spoken to them and said, oh yeah, I'm struggling to get a mortgage, this lender said no. Oh yeah, I saw this company that's posting out stuff, I can't remember that. Oh, it's me, that was it. And that's how it works. And I think when I first started, like I said, I was thinking that I was going to put one post out and then I'm going to be swamped with people that are messaging me because it was such a great post and it was like inspirational and all that sort of stuff. But people that are looking for houses that trigger all of that, the adverts and all that sort of stuff that pop up, they're swamped with it, absolutely swamped with it. It's all over Google, it's all over websites and things like that. This sort of stuff, Julie, a year ago, I'd never do this. I'd be terrified. I'd never do this and sit on this live and do things like this. And I just throw myself into it. And the networking's really built me up with that. We're doing the online networking calls. If anyone's on here and wants to join, let us know. But the networking, the building up your own personal skills, things that you're not naturally accustomed to, just throw yourself in and do something that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, and then eventually it's just going to form part of your DNA. And it's exactly the same thing like this. Like I said, I wouldn't normally do anything like this. But you're such a great host, Julie. Do you know what I mean?
On that note, I'm leaving you. No, I was going to say it's something for all of us. Do you know what I mean? This is not natural for me. I can sit in a room and have a chat. It's absolutely fine. But sitting on a Zoom is it's alien, isn't it? To sit, give us 2 years ago, we would never have done this. Never have done it. We have to put ourselves out of the comfort zone, to kind of grow as an individual, and learn as an individual, and kind of, it's not for everybody, and running a business is not for everybody, being a mortgage broker is not for everybody. We're all individual in our own rights, and there's some key lessons from what you've talked about today. It's like about communicating with people how they want to be communicated with. It's about, scalability of your business model. It's about planning. It's about that goal setting. It's about looking after your customers. What is your unique selling point? Well, that is unique. There'd be a lot of people that say it's my customer service, it's my customer journey, but actually, do they follow through? Do they actually do it? And it's all of that. When you're setting up your own business, you need to think about the cash flow. It's a great lesson. Absolutely amazing, really informative, Mark. So I don't think we've got any more questions at this present moment. as she says, frantically looking just off to the side where her LinkedIn and Facebook are all set up, whirling away. No, so it just leaves me to say, you know, a massive thank you for coming along today. I know that, you know, from the questions that we've had, the engagement that we've had on all the platforms, there's been really warm and welcomed out there. You know, and we'll hopefully welcome you back in, say, 6 months' time. You can tell us what that next stage is, you know, and, you know, for a shameless plug, Mark, you know, if there is anybody out there that is looking to set up their own mortgage broker, then please, you know, do get in contact with Mark. I'm sure the guys, your team on the call, it shows what a great kind of close-knit kind of group you are, that they've come out to support you today.
I mean, that's all that matters, really. I mean, if people are happy, or if people are, you know, feeling like they're not having too many restrictions, but at the same time there's a framework behind it, it's all good. I'm probably going to get so much stick now on our WhatsApp group. John's listening.
No, Aaron's just put on great insight, Mark. Things like that, you know, they're coming in thick and fast. So, you know, thank you very much for joining.
It's all right, no problem.
I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. And hope everybody out there has as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers. Thanks, Julie.